Black man goes undercover in luxury store moments. Later, the arrogant owner regrets everything. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Get out of my store. Her voice cracked through the glass showroom like a whip. Sharp, loud, public. She didn't whisper. She wanted the world outside those doors to hear it. And inside, everyone did, heads turned, phones lifted. The jewelry store gleamed under ceiling spotlights. Diamonds lined the cases like stars pinned behind glass. But in that instant, no one looked at the rings. All eyes locked on her fury, and the man standing in its path. She stood in a cream suit, posture stiff, finger stabbing the air like it could cut him out of existence. The man, young, black, dressed in a gray hoodie and jeans with a leather backpack slung over one shoulder, stood still, silent. His calm made the scene more volatile than shouting ever could. Beside him, a uniformed security guard pressed a hand on his shoulder. Not because the man had done anything, but because the manager's voice had already called him guilty. He stood tense, ready to push him toward the door at her command. "Out!" she snapped again, each syllable loud enough to rattle the glass. "People like you don't belong here." The crowd stiffened. Phones angled higher. Someone whispered into her mic, live streaming. "He hasn't even said a word yet. Just watch this." Comments scrolled in faster than she could read. The owner leaned closer, voice dripping contempt. "Don't make me call the police. You don't belong in this store, and you never will." The guard's grip tightened slightly. The hoodie man didn't move, didn't protest. His stillness unsettled the room more than resistance ever could. What was he waiting for? Why wasn't he fighting back? The air shifted. The luxury vanished. The store felt like a courtroom now, customers as jurors, phones as evidence, every word a charge. And then, finally, he spoke, his voice low, unshaken. "Funny." His eyes met hers, steady. "I own it." The words detonated. A gasp ran through the room. One shopper dropped her phone, another muttered, "Wait, what?" The guard froze mid-grip. The owner's finger, once so sharp, hung useless in the air. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to him. Silence didn't last. "What did you just say?" Her laugh was sharp, brittle. The owner's finger lowered, but her pride shot higher. "You own this? Don't waste my time with lies." The guard hesitated, but her glare snapped him back. "Escort him out," she barked. He shifted his weight, but the man in the hoodie didn't flinch. Calm, anchored. From the back, a teenager whispered into her phone camera, voice trembling but clear. "He said he owns it." "Y'all heard that, right?" The live stream chat exploded, strings of laughing emojis, fire emojis, and skeptical comments racing by. The owner turned, eyes narrowing at the recording crowd. "Stop filming. This isn't your circus." But it was too late. The circus had already begun. She leaned down, inches from his face. "Men like you walk in here thinking you can play rich. Hoodie, sneakers, attitude. You don't even have a receipt for standing in this store." Gasps rippled. A middle-aged man near the watches frowned, murmuring, "That's crossing a line." His wife tugged at his sleeve, "Stay quiet." The hoodie man bent slightly, picked up the wallet she'd knocked from his hand. He brushed it off like dust on glass, then slid it back into his pocket. Still no raised voice. Still no hurry. "Say something," she snapped, her pitch rising. "Prove who you are." He said nothing, and in that silence, her words filled the void, louder, harsher. "This isn't charity. We don't need window shoppers pretending they can afford what's under this glass. People like you waste our air, waste our staff's time, and waste space." The crowd stirred. Phones caught every word. A young woman whispered into her live stream mic, "She really said that. Y'all hearing this?" Comments flew in. "Wow. Racist vibes all over. Don't stop filming." The owner mistook the tension for victory. She raised her chin, satisfied. "Security," she ordered again. "Drag him out. He's done here." The guard's hand pressed harder. The hoodie man still didn't move. He only breathed slow, steady. He'd been here before, different cities, same looks, same accusations, and the weight of those memories sat behind his eyes now. But he said nothing. Not yet. The crack came fast. With one sudden motion, she snatched the leather wallet from his hand. It slipped from her grip, hit the marble floor, and skidded under the glow of a chandelier. Fake, she spat. Just like you. The word rang out, ugly and deliberate. Gasps cut through the store. A young couple by the entrance froze mid-step. Someone whispered, "Did she just—" But the sentence trailed off under the weight of silence. The guard bent low, scooped the wallet up, and slapped it onto the counter as if it were evidence. His palm pressed harder into the man's shoulder now, pushing, testing. Around them, phones angled higher, voices lower but urgent. She threw his wallet. That's theft. I'm recording everything. Bro, this is wild. The owner didn't stop. Her heels clicked against the marble as she circled him like a prosecutor pacing before a jury. You walk in here with sneakers and a hoodie and think you can fool us? This isn't some street corner pawn shop. This is my store. And you're nothing but a fraud. The words hit harder than her finger ever could. His silence held. The hoodie man adjusted his stance, lifted his chin slightly, as if the insults rolled off like rain on glass. Show me your bank account, she sneered. Right now, or admit it, you don't belong here. Phones buzzed. Notifications lit up. Live streams spread across platforms like sparks in dry grass. One feed already had 1,000 viewers, comments pouring, "She's digging her own grave." Don't stop filming. Wait till he speaks. I can feel it. The guard leaned closer, breath hot against the man's ear. Cooperate, or I'll make you. The hoodie man's eyes shifted, not to the guard, not to the owner, but to the glowing rows of cameras capturing every second. Witnesses. Proof. He inhaled once, long and steady. The owner's final strike landed like glass shattering. You don't belong here. Not in this store. Not in this world. The crowd jolted. Even the guard faltered for half a beat. That sentence, louder than all the rest, hung heavy in the air, like a gavel sealing a verdict. The man finally exhaled, and in that breath, the storm was about to turn. The room buzzed with whispers, the kind that live longer than shouting. The wallet still sat on the counter like contraband, his shoulder still pinned under the guard's weight. But the man didn't shove back, didn't argue. Instead, he reached slowly into his pocket and drew out a phone. Calm, unhurried. The kind of movement that says, I'm not fighting you, I'm preparing you. The guard stiffened. What do you think you're doing? The man ignored him. One tap, 2 swipes. The screen lit, reflected in his steady eyes. He lifted the phone to his ear. Activate protocol, he said evenly. His voice wasn't raised, but it carried. Every word was a strike. Audit starts now. Log the incident. Full compliance record. On the other end, a voice replied instantly crisp. Professional. Confirmed. Recording initiated. Legal and corporate notified. The guard blinked. The owner froze mid-stride. For the first time, uncertainty cut through her anger. What? Protocol? She asked, voice wobbling. He didn't answer her. He didn't need to. The crowd stirred. Phones zoomed closer. A teenage boy whispered into his live stream. Oh my God, he's not bluffing. Y'all heard that? Comments exploded. Who has a protocol? This man is somebody. It's about to flip. The owner snapped back, her pride scrambling for ground. Stop pretending. You can call whoever you want. This isn't your playground. But her voice had lost its edge. The crowd felt it. The balance was shifting, one measured word at a time. The man slid the phone back into his pocket. His silence pressed harder than her shouting ever could. Then, finally, he spoke calm, deliberate. You've made this bigger than me, he said. Now the system will decide. Gasps rippled again. The guard's grip loosened, just slightly. In the back, a young woman lowered her phone and whispered, almost reverent, He's different. This isn't just a customer. The owner's cheeks flushed crimson. She lunged for control with words sharper than glass. You're bluffing. All of you stop recording. He's nobody. But even as she barked, her hands trembled. The confidence she wore like armor had started to crack. And in that crack, something unstoppable had entered. Doubt. The man stood straighter, unshaken, as if he'd been waiting for this exact moment. The counterattack had begun. The air in the showroom had changed. A minute ago, the owner's words filled it like smoke. Now her silence was louder than any insult. The man in the hoodie adjusted his stance, free of the guard's grip for the first time. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The crowd was leaning closer, phones lifted, eyes wide, waiting. "Who are you calling?" the owner demanded, though her tone had lost its bite. "Some friend to fake a scene?" Her voice cracked on the last word. From the side, a younger employee, barely 20, hair pulled back in a nervous knot, stepped forward. "Ma'am," she said cautiously, I think I've seen his name." The owner snapped around. "Stay out of this." But it was too late. The whisper had already seeded doubt. The shoppers heard it. So did the livestream audience. On one of the phones, comments scrolled like wildfire. "Employee knows him? This ain't fake. No way." Owner looks shook. The man finally spoke, low and steady. "You asked who I called." He paused, letting the silence tighten. "My office. My system. The very one that owns the ground under your feet." The crowd erupted. Gasps. Whispers. Someone muttered, "Wait. Owns the ground?" Another said louder, "He's not lying. I've read about a takeover recently." Ugh. The owner's face drained of color, but she forced a laugh, brittle as glass. "Ridiculous. If you owned this place, why dress like that?" Her words cracked, more defensive than strong. The hoodie man turned toward her fully now, eyes calm but unyielding. "Because your behavior doesn't change with a suit. It only hides when you expect it." The sentence landed heavy, a quiet hammer on the marble floor. Behind them, the younger employee stepped closer, voice trembling but clear. "He's telling the truth. I saw the memo last week. New majority stakeholder, Carter Group." She glanced at him, then back at the owner. His name was on it. Phones caught every word. Livestream comments screamed, "Carter Group? He's the CEO?" This just flipped hard. Justice unfolding live. The guard stepped back, hand dropping from the man's shoulder completely now. He looked at the owner, unsure, sweat gathering at his brow. The owner stammered, You set this up. You tricked us." The man in the hoodie straightened, his presence filling the space more than any diamond could. "No," he said. "I tested you, and you failed." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was verdict. The revelation hit like shattered glass across the showroom. No one moved at first, then the ripples spread. The guard, once rigid, let his arm fall completely. His eyes flicked between the man in the hoodie and the trembling owner, as if silently asking which one actually held power. Shoppers whispered loudly now, no longer afraid of being overheard. "He owns it? Did she really just humiliate her boss? This is insane. Keep recording." Phones stayed high, capturing every twitch, every breath. A woman near the diamond rings clapped once, almost involuntarily. The sound echoed, fragile but electric. Others followed scattered applause, nervous at first, then swelling. The young employee who had spoken up looked pale, but her voice carried, "I told you. His name was in the memo." The owner spun toward her, desperate. "You're lying. You're—" But the words collapsed in her throat. Her authority had bled out onto the marble floor. The hoodie man didn't gloat. He didn't even smile. He simply stood still, the calm center of a storm that had turned against her. A customer near the entrance lifted his phone higher. "This is going viral," he muttered. "By tonight, everyone will see this." The owner's face drained. She reached for the counter to steady herself, knuckles white. For years, she'd ruled this store with unchecked arrogance, her word the only law. And now, in less than 10 minutes, her empire had crumbled in front of witnesses with cameras. The guard finally stepped back entirely, hands raised as if surrendering. "Ma'am," he said softly, "what do you want me to do?" She didn't answer. She couldn't, because the decision was no longer hers. The hoodie man lifted his gaze to the crowd. His voice was steady, each word chosen like a blade. "You saw what happened here. Not a mistake. Not confusion. A choice." The clapping grew louder. Some shoppers shouted agreement. "That's right! We saw everything!" The younger employee swallowed hard, then took a step closer to him. Her hands shook, but her eyes didn't waver. "Sir, what do you want us to do?" Her words sealed it. Power had shifted. The staff no longer looked at the owner for direction, they looked at him. The owner's lips trembled, fury tangled with fear. She opened her mouth to retort, but the sound of the crowd drowned her out. The courtroom had delivered its verdict. The clapping died down, but the weight in the room did not. The owner stood frozen, her authority shattered, her voice swallowed by silence. The guard no longer held the man in the hoodie. Shoppers were no longer watching jewels, they were watching justice. He reached for his phone again. One tap, one call. His tone was low, measured, the kind of voice used when orders were final. Execute removal. Effective immediately. On the other end, the assistant's reply came sharp and steady. Understood. Locking access now. The owner's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out instinctively, eyes darting. A red error message flashed across the screen. Access revoked. Her lips parted. No, you can't. The crowd gasped as she jabbed the screen, panic replacing arrogance. It didn't work. Her system login, her privileges, her authority all erased in real time. The hoodie man didn't look at her. He addressed the staff, his words slicing through the tension. This store deserves better. Effective today, she is no longer your manager. The young employee covered her mouth, eyes wide. The guard took half a step back, shaking his head slowly, as if realizing the ground beneath his feet had shifted forever. The owner's voice finally broke, high and trembling. You can't do this! I've run this store for 15 years! He cut her off with calm precision. You ran it on bias, on humiliation. That ends now. The words hit harder than shouting ever could. Shoppers murmured in agreement. Phones caught the moment, captions already forming. Owner fired on the spot. This is history. The assistant's voice returned through his earpiece. All credentials disabled. Security notified. Legal documentation in progress. He nodded once, a gesture of closure. Good. Make sure every word spoken here is logged. The owner's hands trembled, clutching her useless phone. This is illegal. It's accountability, he interrupted. His voice was calm, final, and it's long overdue. The guard, caught between fear and respect, lowered his gaze. The staff shifted uncomfortably, no longer aligned with the woman who had just been stripped of power. Around them, the crowd erupted not in chaos, but in approval. Applause, louder this time, deliberate. The sound filled the glass showroom until it drowned out everything else, even the woman's fading protests. And in the middle of it all, the man in the hoodie stood unshaken, not triumphant, not vengeful, simply resolved. The verdict had been delivered. The applause swelled, echoing against glass and marble. It wasn't chaotic, it was deliberate, unified, like a verdict signed by every hand in the room. Phones stayed raised, capturing every second. The former owner's voice tried to cut through, but the sound was weak, brittle. This isn't fair, this is fraud, you can't just... But nobody listened. Even her own staff turned their eyes away. The bond of loyalty dissolved. The man in the hoodie lifted his hand once, palm open, and the room quieted. Not instantly, but gradually, like a tide receding at his command. His voice was calm, low, but it carried to every corner. You thought I didn't belong here. He paused, letting the words settle. But ownership doesn't ask for your permission. Respect doesn't come from what you wear. It comes from what you've built. Gasps, murmurs. The weight of those words pressed on every chest in the room. He glanced at the former manager. You confused silence with weakness. That was your last mistake. The crowd erupted again, shouts of agreement, applause sharper, louder. A shopper near the back yelled, "Say it louder!" But he didn't. He didn't need to, because the power of his statement wasn't in volume, it was in truth. The younger employee stepped forward, voice trembling. Sir, what happens now? He looked at her, steady. Now, we rebuild. With dignity, with equity. This store isn't just glass and diamonds, it's a mirror. And today, the world saw what was reflected. Phones captured his words, comments exploding across streams. That line gave me chills. Silent power is greater than loud hate. This is how justice looks. The man in the hoodie turned toward the crowd one final time. His voice dropped to a near whisper, but the silence made it ring. I don't need to prove myself with receipts. This entire store is my receipt. It landed like a gavel strike. The guard lowered his head. The staff stood frozen. The shoppers erupted, some clapping, some cheering, all carrying the weight of a moment they knew would travel far beyond these walls. And the man, calm as he'd been from the first insult to the last word, turned and walked toward the door. No rush, no drama, just a steady stride that left the room reeling. because justice had already been delivered. The door hadn't even closed behind him before the collapse began. The former manager stood frozen, phone clutched in her hand like a weapon that had already betrayed her. The red error message still glared from the screen, mocking her. She tapped again and again, but the same words stared back. A CSS denied. Her face drained. Her hands shook. The empire she thought untouchable had vanished with a single phone call. The guard hovered awkwardly, shoulders stiff, eyes darting. Just minutes ago, he'd pressed his weight against the man in the hoodie with confidence. Now he looked like a child caught stealing. He muttered something under his breath, but the words drowned under the whispers of the crowd. Customers began filing toward the exits, but not in silence. They spoke openly now, voices carrying. Can you believe she said all that to him? I'm never shopping here again. This video's going everywhere, she's finished. Phones buzzed, notifications stacked. Clips were already circulating across platforms. In less than an hour, the world outside would know. The young employee, the one who had spoken up, stood rooted to the floor. Her heart hammered, but she felt strangely lighter. For years, she had watched customers leave this store humiliated, whispered warnings buried under policy. Today, the silence had cracked. She turned to the former manager, her voice quiet but steady. You should leave. The manager spun on her, desperation flaring. You'll regret this. All of you. He won't protect you, he'll replace you. But the words sounded hollow, brittle. The staff exchanged glances, uneasy. No one stepped forward to defend her. No one spoke in her favor. For the first time, her authority had evaporated, and with it, the fear she once commanded. The young employee swallowed hard, but her voice didn't waver. Better to be replaced than complicit. The manager's lips trembled. She looked around for an ally and found none. From the doorway, applause still echoed faintly as customers exited, some cheering, some shaking their heads in disbelief. A woman near the back whispered to her son, You just saw history, baby. Remember this. The showroom, once polished and pristine, felt cracked, fragile. It wasn't the glass cases, it was the illusion of power that had shattered. And in its fragments, everyone left standing had to face the truth. The balance of control had shifted, permanently. By the time the last shopper stepped onto the sidewalk, the story had already left the building. Clips hit social media within minutes, angled from different phones. Each captured the same moment, the owner shouting, People like you don't belong here, followed by the calm reply, Funny, I own it. The internet did the rest. On one live stream, the view count rocketed past 10,000. Comments flooded in faster than the feed could refresh. Chills. Silent power. This is how you flip racism on its head. I want to shake his hand. A news blogger clipped 30 seconds of the confrontation and tweeted, When arrogance met ownership. The post exploded. Retweets stacked by the second. Inside the store, the former manager still stood trembling. But her humiliation wasn't local anymore, it was global. People who had never set foot in that showroom now knew her words by heart. Outside, customers lingered on the sidewalk, voices rising with excitement. A woman who had filmed the entire incident grinned into her phone. Y'all, this is going viral. We just witnessed justice in real time. Passersby stopped to ask questions. What happened? Who was he? And each time the answer spread wider. The man they tried to kick out? He's the owner. The young employee stepped outside, her phone buzzing nonstop. She glanced down hundreds of notifications, messages from friends. Girl, you're on TikTok right now. Her hands shook, but for once it wasn't from fear. The guard slipped out quietly, head low. His radio crackled with static. No orders coming through. For years, his job had been to enforce her voice. Now, stripped of command, that voice carried no weight. And above it all, the echo of the crowd's applause lingered like a verdict stamped into the air. The viral storm had begun. The world was watching. And the story wasn't hers anymore, it was his. By nightfall, the clip wasn't just viral, it was everywhere. News anchors replayed the moment on loop, the manager's finger jabbing, her words sharp as glass, followed by his steady reply, I own it. Commentators called it the most powerful 10 seconds of silence and truth this year. On TikTok, hashtags spread like wildfire. Number silent power, number justice in real time, number he owns it. Millions of views stacked by the hour. Strangers stitched the clip, adding their own voices. This is how you handle hate with dignity. In New York, a commuter on the subway showed the video to a stranger across the aisle. In Lagos, a group of students crowded around a phone, shaking their heads, cheering at the twist. In London, the evening news called it a case study in dignity under fire. Then came the official response. The Carter Group released a statement simple, direct. Today's incident in one of our stores reflects why we lead with accountability. Discrimination has no place in our company. Immediate actions have been taken. We stand with every customer who deserves dignity, without exception. The press release spread just as fast as the video. Headlines multiplied. CEO confronts racism in his own store. Manager fired after public humiliation backfires. Investors responded too. The company's stock ticked upward, subtle but steady, powered not just by profits but by principle. And beneath the noise of media cycles, a quieter truth traveled further. Countless viewers saw themselves in him. People who had been doubted, dismissed, profiled. They saw silence turned into strength, and strength turned into justice. In forums and comment sections, stories poured out. This happened to me at a hotel once. I was followed around a store too, just for how I looked. Watching him handle it without shouting gave me hope. The aftershock wasn't just about one man or one store. It was about a mirror held up to the world, showing how quickly arrogance can collapse when truth steps forward. And at the center of it all stood the man in the hoodie, who had said only what was necessary and nothing more. The storm of headlines, the flood of videos, the endless commentary, it all circled back to one moment inside a single glass showroom. The man in the hoodie never posted about it. He didn't need to. His silence had already spoken louder than any caption. But a week later, at a quiet press conference, he stood once more not behind a podium stacked with microphones, but in the same gray hoodie, the same calm stance. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward, waiting for a speech. He gave them none. "I don't need to explain dignity," he said simply. "You either practice it, or you lose everything built without it." Gasps rippled. Pens scratched across notepads. The sentence was short, sharp, final. One reporter raised her hand. "What about the manager who confronted you? Will there be legal action?" His reply was steady. "I don't need revenge. I needed the truth exposed. The rest is already handled." That was all. No fireworks, no outrage, just finality. Across the world, his words replayed in endless clips. "I don't need to explain dignity. You either practice it, or you lose everything." Oh, it became more than a line. It became a lesson, stitched into posts, printed on headlines, whispered in classrooms and offices. In the showroom itself, business resumed under new leadership. Staff walked taller, customers felt welcome, and the glass cases no longer reflected arrogance. They reflected change. And as for the man who had once been told he didn't belong, he left behind a truth sharper than diamonds. Power doesn't need to shout. Justice doesn't need to beg. It just needs to stand.